But there have now been so many thousands of protests involving so many millions of Americans. Now I think it's time to start having a national conversation of a different type, right? The strategy and the character of the opposition to Trump is not only self-evident as the most important story in the country, I think it's finally being recognized as the most important story in the country, which is nice. And, you know, you have the president clearly just fundamentally politically unable to contend with the depth and breadth of feeling against him, right? So these must be paid protesters or invaders from somewhere else, or they must all be violent criminals or whatever. No, actually, this is St. Louis, right? This is America. No kings, yes, queens, right? Like that. This is just us. It's who we are, and this is how we feel about you. I mean, this is Joplin, Missouri. This is Louisville, Kentucky, where thousands of people turned out. This is McHenry, Illinois. This is High Point, North Carolina. It is literally everywhere in this country, Americans in surprising numbers, in surprising places, turning out again and again and again and again to say, no, nope, we are not doing this. You are not taking over our country and turning us into a dictatorship. You are not going to be a king here. And so with all that proof in the pudding, right, with all of that evidence of where we are, it's now sort of time, if we haven't had it already, it is now time to really have a serious national conversation about where this all goes. Because this is not just like the resistance to Trump, right? Like this is the opposition to Trump. This is the other side. And if we're thinking about the two sides of this fight, well, politically, we're at a point where Trump, and I don't mean this in a mean way, but as a political figure, he looks sad and small.
Left the door open for talks. We know it's been the Ayatollah Khamenei and others in those theological thugs in that regime who haven't wanted to do it. And hard to say where Iran's leadership, what's left of it, is at this point. But there's no question Trump will leave that door open for a deal. But Iran's going to have to show they're sincere if they want to talk. How to do that? Stop those missile attacks.
As we look on the right-hand side of your screen, they're bringing in the stairs so that President Trump and everybody there on Air Force One can disembark the plane. But I want to follow up on what Carly just said. The question remains to me, Dr. Grant, how can we even trust that Iran will honor any deal, in my estimation, if the current regime remains in place? And yes, that leads to that question of regime change.
Well, two things. One, clearly Trump is keeping the military pressure on. Deploying a second aircraft carrier gives him all the sovereign strike options. Iran's got to know that. But remember now, Todd, because of what's happened, we have a lot more surveillance and insight into exactly what's going on in Iran. One thing Israel's learned from this campaign is exactly the state of that target base, what their military is really up to. And President Trump, too, will see whether Iran's military is postured to keep going or begging to get this over with. So we have a lot more sense now. And of course, the destruction that Israel has achieved on that target set will make the basis for a nuclear deal, if we get one, I think quite a bit stronger. And I'm so glad to see a lot of their air defenses and missile capability eliminated.
Yeah, do you think that U.S. involvement in this, and I mean not in a defensive posture, but actual involvement, do you think that's where we're headed?
It certainly that is the overture that is being made with the tankers, the aircraft carrier and the tankers. That's a message that the U.S. is ready to get more involved. Don't underrate the defensive posture that we're in. Space Force is watching every one of those Iranian missile launches. We've seen the Navy up intercepting, and you can bet Navy and U.S. land-based aircraft on patrol in that region as well. We're already pretty involved, and Trump is pointing out to Iran and others that there could be more to come from the U.S. if Iran won't talk.
Any second now, the president will emerge there and walk down the steps out of Air Force One. As to what
over again. So for a would-be strongman, he's not strong. He is a remarkably weak and feckless political figure who is nevertheless trying to overthrow the American form of government while pushing incredibly unpopular policies and executing everything incredibly poorly with a laughingstock full of a terribly staffed administration and cabinet. I mean, who's in the Trump administration who you think like, skills, right? Or you think, popular. Or you think, growing political capital for this president by the day. Honestly. And on the other side, the opposition against him is big, deep, growing, confident, and increasingly unstoppable.
Would be that that something major is happening. As we ask this question, I believe that we're seeing the plane that President is on. As we said that he did leave that G7 summit in Canada. And it's just touching down, back down at Joint Base Andrews. So as he gets set to deboard that plane, I'm going to continue my question with you. And it would indicate by that Truth Social post and the fact that he left the summit early, that Israel is planning something big. Is that the sense that you're getting when it comes to all of this?
That is a sense is getting it, and you get some of the sense that the U.S. may somehow be involved from the president's words, and that leads to a lot of speculation. We know to this point the U.S. has assisted with missile interception, and that is the real missile interception and providing weapons to Israel to this point, and that has been the limit of U.S. involvement in this particular context. But there is a lot of speculation now that you may see more U.S. involvement. One thing that Israel would like from the U.S. is assistance in terms of bunker-busting weapons. Only the B-2 bomber can carry this large bunker buster that the U.S. does indeed possess, and that could quite possibly allow penetration of the nuclear facility at Fordo. A lot of that, of course, is speculation, but you're certainly getting some hints out of the president. Carly?
Yeah. And Mike, you also mentioned that Israel was anticipating hundreds of missiles incoming last night, and tens actually arrived. Does that indicate that Iran and their missile supply is significantly depleted just 5 days into this current conflict?
I think it's more of an indication that Iran is now in disarray. You have seen the assassination of a lot of their top military commanders, and these are the guys who would have been planning their counterstrikes at Israel. So there isn't really anyone to make decisions, and you also have Israel announcing that they have destroyed 1/3 of the ballistic missile launchers. So Iran has some problems in terms of organization right now. Also, they may be very careful in terms of deploying their missile launchers because when they deploy them, they lose them. Carly?
Mike Tobin live for us in Tel Aviv this morning. Mike, thank you. And on your screen right now, you are looking as President Trump's plane, Air Force One, of course, arrives at Joint Base Andrews. We are awaiting the president leaving that plane and heading to the White House. But first, let's bring in national security and military analyst and international relations expert, Dr. Rebecca Grant. Dr. Grant, I want to go to the Truth Social post that everybody's talking about this morning. Mike Tobin alluded to it. It says the following: publicity-seeking President Emmanuel Macron of France mistakenly said that I left the G7 summit in Canada to go back to D.C. to work on a ceasefire between Israel and Iran. Wrong. He has no idea why I am now on my way to Washington, but it certainly has nothing to do with a ceasefire, much bigger than that. Dr. Grant, what is much bigger than that? What could that mean? And why did he say it has nothing to do with a ceasefire?
President Trump has come back early to be in place as commander-in-chief because he has some evaluations and decisions to make. I think he will be looking at a number of options, and the deployment of aerial refueling tankers forward to Europe, that's an air bridge that can create the basis for intensified airstrikes, even long-range bomber strikes. So clearly Trump has a lot of evaluations to go through, possibly assisting Israel with the denuclearization of Iran.
Yeah, and could he mean by something bigger than a ceasefire, could he be alluding to the fact that a potential nuclear deal would be on the horizon? It does feel like it is a big day as the president touches down there in Washington, D.C. And in just 4 days, Israel really has, Dr. Grant, accomplished a lot. Is Iran at a point where they would sign on to giving up nuclear weapons to potentially avoid regime change?
I think Iran's president has signaled all along that he believes talks are important, and President Trump is.
right? Nobody came to his $45 million military birthday party. He is a laughingstock on the world stage. He's being treated at the G7 right now like he's Putin's intern. The White House just announced tonight that Trump is coming home early from the G7 meeting tonight after so embarrassing himself there today. I mean, this is a president whose signature economic policy, his supposed tariff policy, is a punchline even among Republicans. I mean, someday, 30 years from now, the whole lecture hall full of Econ 101 students is going to laugh out loud when the professor gets out the chalk and writes taco on the chalkboard and has to explain what the acronym TACO meant in the Trump years. For his signature economic policy that he thought would work so well for him, both politically and economically. It is a punchline. I mean, this is a president who appointed a madman to be the nation's health secretary, and who in turn, he has just put like a QAnon conspiracy chat room in charge of the nation's vaccine schedule. This is a president who is selling coins and gold trinkets with his face on them from the White House. This is a president who can't persuade the first lady to live with him. This is a president whose supposed best friend says he should be impeached, and by the way, is in the Epstein files. I mean, this is a president whose approval ratings are more underwater than any other president ever at this point in his term. He has already rushed right to the part where he tries to turn the military against the civilian population, where he tries to turn the force of the American military against the American people. And that is something that neither the military nor the people have